My name is Anna. I go to the University of Alabama. I'm a senior. I'm a social work major. After graduation, I have officially decided what I'm doing. I applied to Fordham University's online LCSW program.
I'm headed to a residential youth detention center that I'm interning at this upcoming semester.
Getting my master's in social work is something that enables me to have really cool jobs and to learn how to help people best. My first day of grad school is today. Today is my last day of class ever in my life.
As far as pursuing my clinical licensure, that is something that I do want to do, like go on and get my LCSW. It is my first day of a new job.
I have my application to become a licensed master social worker.
My application has been sent. It's test day. You want to see first? What's it say? I passed. I'm a licensed social worker. I am quitting my job. But I've been offered a position as a medical social worker working with children. And as of today, I am a medical social worker working with children.
Next year is when I'll be able to get my clinical license. This year we have a professional goal, and that is to get my clinical license as a social worker. I want to be getting my clinical license this year. I will be getting my clinical license this year.
Let's go get this sent. Let's go get this sent. Whenever I was walking out of work, like with this envelope in hand, I was like, should I cry? And I was like, Anna, you're literally just like sending in an application for the chance to test, for the chance to become an LCSW. Like we're not there yet, baby girl.
Today is the day that the social work board meets for September, which is when they're reviewing my application. No news. I'm sorry. Eventually, I'll be taking my licensing test and accomplishing my biggest professional achievement yet. Not yet. Eventually that'll happen. I may have done something insane, but today, this was crazy timing too, but today at 10:24, I thought to myself, oh, I wonder if my status on the Georgia State Board's website has been updated yet. And so I went into the website to check, and it showed that it was last updated on September 24th, 2025, which is today, but I hadn't gotten anything yet. So I was like, oh no, it still says pending board review, but it says last updated today. So I literally like went and texted Zach and was like, why would it say it's last updated today, but I haven't gotten anything yet? And I started thinking in my head, oh no, it's gonna be another month, like it's still pending board review. And then I got an email, literally still in 1024, like the same minute that I checked the website, an email loaded that said, congratulations, you have been approved to sit for the LCSW exam, the clinical social work exam, which is what I've been waiting for, I would say months. Like I applied months ago, but really this is what my whole social work journey thus far has culminated into. And so very big deal. I tried to like get on and register on the website on my phone because I was in a meeting. Not gonna lie, I was in a meeting, so I was trying to do it on my phone, but the website like wasn't compatible with my phone. So it was the longest meeting of my life is what it felt like. It probably went like 5 more minutes. And I literally sprinted back to my desktop and registered for the exam. And then when I was going to schedule it, I was like, okay, now this is the time I have to brace myself for because there may not be exam availability coming up. Like TBD, depends, we'll have to see. I opened up the scheduler and like selected the test centers close to me. There was a time available for 8 a.m. on Friday. Right now it is Wednesday after work. I scheduled my exam for less than 48 hours from when I got approved, but I just want to get it done. I feel like I've been waiting. I feel like I can do it if I put my mind to it. I am planning on passing this thing, and so I scheduled it. I had no idea starting this week that I would be doing this week. I texted my manager real quick and was like, is it too late to request off and like get approved Friday morning off? Because if not, then I was just gonna like call out sick, basically. Call out sick in the head. And she was like, no, that's still fine, just find coverage. So I got coverage, I requested off for Friday, and about 36 hours from now, I will be sitting and taking my clinical social worker exam, which I have been practicing, I have been studying, but I am going to like super practice until then, because I don't want to regret taking it so soon. Like I want to feel entirely ready, which I do think I am, and I'm feeling confident in my skills, but I want to super practice so that I just feel the best I can going into it. So tonight I'm gonna take the practice test from ASWB, the one that like you can buy from them. I bought it from them. I'm gonna take that because I figure the best way to know if I'm doing well with the test questions will be to take the practice tests that were written by the test makers themselves. So I'm gonna shower and everything and do that really quick. And in this vlog, we'll be finding out, hopefully I'll be passing. I really like don't want to look stupid by being like, oh, I'm gonna pass this thing and then not, but I'm trying not to leave room in my head for not passing it, because I want that to be my path forward. Like I feel so ready and nervous and excited and like proud of myself, but also a little hesitant because I can't quite be proud yet. So big things coming. So reviews of the practice test, because I have now finished it. It does cost $85 from ASWB. So last test, I did not get that because it didn't feel worth it to me monetarily wise to do it. But this time, with the quick turnaround that I'm doing right now, and then also just the fact that, like I said, I felt like getting test questions from the test writers was a good way to just like gauge and ensure that I'm ready, which I better be ready because I have an hour and 15 minutes before I have to decide if I'm rescheduling or not. I don't think I am though. With the practice test, I got 112 questions right and it required 102. So that is a pass, but I would love for there to be a greater margin. So it's like, it feels good, but I'm not just like, oh, phew. I do think it was helpful just to remember the testing like screen, like what's that, the software that it is, because I was remembering like how to flag my questions and go back and forth, but it's really not hard. And last time when I took it, I had never seen it before and it was just fine. I just feel like that kind of got me in the zone this time as I was practicing. So we really do have 25 hours and 15 minutes until I'm sitting for the test. What I'm gonna do today is go through the questions that I missed on the test from yesterday, and then I also have been just going through videos online on YouTube mostly of practice questions and study sessions. My favorite study creator is Savvy Social Worker. She is the best to me because she explains things in a way that I feel like makes sense and is helpful as far as like breaking down a question, figuring out like what you're actually answering, knowing what types of answers are wrong or right, all of those things. I feel like she explains it enough in a way that like you're really getting content and learning, but she doesn't do too much. Sometimes I feel like people kind of do a lot of thinking to get to an answer, and I think she does a really good job of like keeping it simple while still being helpful and still helping your brain, you know, shape for the test. So she has several on her YouTube channel that are like live group sessions that now she's posted that are like an hour and a half each or so, and then she also has little short just like reminder videos of different topics, and so I'm kind of just going through those, and I think I'm pretty much just going to be doing that for the rest of today after going through my questions, and hopefully it works. I'm at the testing center and I kind of feel like I'm gonna poop my pants. I have my 2 forms of identification. I have my passport and my driver's license here, which I think is all I need to bring in with me. I did all of the things that they say you're not supposed to do leading into this test. For example, I have been cramming the past 48 hours. I feel like that does kind of make sense in my situation though, like considering I scheduled the test 48 hours ago. And then I did still watch some like study videos and reviewed some stuff this morning, which they also say you're not really supposed to do. But I feel nervous, but I just like am really looking forward to the moment where I get to see my result. Not to sound too woo-woo, but like I'm feeling really connected to myself from whenever I took my LMSW exam. Like I was rewatching that vlog and I feel like that is like the natural progression to this. Like I'm just really loving that girl, and she did it and she passed, and this girl's gonna do it and this girl's gonna pass. I thought this was cute. I texted my mom and said I was nervous, and she said that being nervous means that I respect the test. I am just really hoping that that test respects me back. The part that's different this time, I forget if I've said this, last time whenever I took the test, it was just one big block, and you could take like breaks where the time was not paused. Unpaused breaks if you wanted to or needed to, and I didn't end up getting up ever and doing that. But this time they've changed it to where the test is split into 2 sections of 85 questions each and 2 hours each. And so like when you finish section 1, you have a 10-minute break that is not included in the time. So I feel like it's going to make more sense this time for me to like get up and make sure I'm like stretching. Like I keep reminding myself like you can use the bathroom anytime you'd like, Anna. Like no one's holding you hostage in here. I'm just feeling quite nervous. My strategy that I'm gonna do is the same that I did last time, where if there's any question that I'm not 100% certain that I'm picking the right answer, like if I'm guessing at all, I'm gonna flag it for review, because then I can go back and either decide to be 100% certain or keep it as review, and I'll kind of know then like what amount of questions could be wrong for me, you know, if that makes sense. Because if I am 100% certain on a lot of questions, then I can feel pretty confident that hopefully I'll pass, and I can feel confident that before I hit submit. But
but obviously I could feel really confident on incorrect answers too, which is what's kind of making me nervous. It's making me nervous. This could be like the biggest day of my life, and I feel like yes, I've been preparing for it, but the 48-hour turnaround really does feel weird. I slept well last night. I always think like this is so funny, but like our upstairs neighbor is never noisy. Like sometimes we can hear him walking around, but like not at all a bad upstairs neighbor. Last night, randomly around like 10:30, 10:45, the biggest bangs coming from above us. I was like, what are you doing? It woke me up. I was like, of course it's this night. Like out of all nights, of course it's this night that he's dropping weights like above my bedroom. I don't know what he was doing. Right now it is 7:32. The crazies like me are in their cars ready. The test starts at 8. I am going to like sit here and play some music. My anti-anxiety song, I feel like you can probably even just tell by the way I'm talking that I'm like quite nervous. My anti-anxiety song is Snow on the Beach featuring more Lana Del Rey. I don't know why, it just brings me such peace, and so I honestly am just gonna sit here and listen to that for a little bit. I think between 7:40 and 7:45 I'll go in, bring my identification. I don't think there's anything I need to like review really quick. I'm hopeful that medication questions are just medications I know, and those can feel like freebie points. I'm hopeful that there's no like super strange theory questions that I am not familiar with. I really am so nervous. I really am so nervous, but I'll see you after the test. I've got this. I'll see you after the test. I passed. I like wasn't ready because last time, pardon me in this video, last time you like click submit and then you go and they printed off a piece of paper, and so I could like look at it on my own terms, you know? So that's like, I like didn't look at it, and I like came back to my car and I got to have this moment of like okay, deep breath, and then I like showed it to you first, and then I looked at it and I like cried because I passed. This one caught me so off guard. My little nervous system like doesn't know what to do with itself. I don't even know what time it is or where my phone is. I didn't bring my phone in with me because, oh no, I'm extra. You put your stuff in a locker, but I didn't. 11:10. Okay, what was I saying? Oh, so I take the test. I'm taking the test. We'll have to talk more about that later because obviously I'm not like in a place right now to really talk about it. But at the end, you take the survey just the same as last time, and then I clicked like end survey, and it asked again like, are you sure you want to end your survey? And I said yes, and then all of a sudden it pops up and it says your examination result passed. And I was literally sitting there and I was like, and I can like feel my heart just like, I was like, wait, this like means I passed the test, right? Like I was thinking, like, did I pass the survey? Like no, like examination result passed. So with that, I don't know how many I like got right or wrong or anything because they didn't print it out for me. They said to check my score report on ASWB website. So I am like curious of that. I felt pretty good as I took it though. Like I felt good as I took it. There were definitely some that I was like, shoot, I don't know. I got confused with transference and countertransference, which is so silly because that's one that like is easy to know, and there's so many preparation materials, and like I literally remembered sitting in Planet Fitness, I think like doing legs, listening to the Agents of Change short about transference and countertransference, but I still was like getting confused on it. When you pass the exam, blah blah blah. I don't think it's on the website yet. I want to know how many I got right. Okay, it says a few hours after you complete the exam. Well, that's lame. I'm like starved. I'm also an LCSW. I feel like I need to like go to an empty part of this parking lot and just like run around. Should we FaceTime Zach? Oh, he's in class. Lame. Okay, let's text my mom. I passed. My old supervisor. I passed. This is fun. Who else should I text? This is not settled in. I think I need to actually see the unofficial score report in order for it to settle in, because then I can like look back at where it says pass. What if I made up the fact that it just said pass? I didn't. It did say that. This is crazy. Obviously, we're gonna have to circle back to have like real reflections and stuff, because what's happening right now is not that, but ah! Cheers. I got this drink order from a mutual who got a matcha. I got it with almond milk. I'm not sure what she got it with. Matcha with 2 pumps of pumpkin sauce and pumpkin cold cream, pumpkin cream cold foam. There we go. If you can't tell, I took a 4-hour-long standardized test today, which I did pass, and I am now a licensed clinical social worker. So this felt like a good little reward. I also got a turkey bacon sandwich. They were out of the spinach feta egg white wrap that I usually get, so I had to ad-lib a little bit. But I did light ice. I guess that just gives me a whole lot of liquid. Really get my money's worth. That was entirely a sip of the cold foam. Let me see if I can get some matcha too. Still good. This is really good. I just love a pumpkin cream cold foam. I will be enjoying this, sitting in my car and reflecting on my past 25 years and celebrating the fact that I just did my like biggest professional achievement ever in my life. And I'm really happy about it and proud of myself for it, and I don't know how to like accurately reflect that in words, and so I'm just gonna be sitting here reflecting in my car, and then I'm gonna go to work and go about my merry little day, even though today is like one of the biggest days of my life. So yay, thanks for being a part of my journey. Okay, I feel ready to talk. I got my notes in my notes app. This is a week from when I got approved and 5 days from when I took the test. And if you watch the other videos on my channel, you may know that we're moving like at this exact same time. And it's been tough balancing both, which is why I'm just now sitting down to talk to you. And not even tough in the like, oh, I've been so busy type of way, but just truly like, I don't know, emotionally and mentally, it's been like a lot to hold all at once. But as you know from the video you've watched thus far, I did on Friday become an LCSW, or at least I passed my exam on Friday. Yesterday is when I got an email from the state saying, here is your social work license number, like it's official. So as of September 30th, it was official that I am an LCSW, and it still hasn't set in. It's set in more than it did in the previous clip after I had just literally gotten out of the test, but it still hasn't fully set in. I want to sit and talk about just like everything that I've been asked in the past couple of days and everything that I wondered heading into this experience, hopefully some of which is helpful or interesting for you. So every state varies in what they require to become an independent social worker, an independent clinical social worker, the acronyms vary too. In Georgia, LMSW is the master level, associate level license. LCSW is the clinical license. In Georgia, it requires a minimum of 3 years post-grad, 3,000 hours working as a social worker, and 120 hours of supervision, half of which can be group, the other half or more have to be individual, and half of which can be from other license types like a psychologist, LPC, LMFT, those types of things, but 60 of the hours have to be from an LCSW, a social worker. Along with that, there's the other requirements that I feel like are just kind of assumed, like you have to have your master's of social work, you have to have completed a field placement during your master's of social work, like those types of things. And I hit my supervision hours May, I would say, maybe April or May. It was right around whenever I was applying, but what ended up being the last requirement for me to meet was the 3 years post-grad. I was not messing around about my LCSW, to be so honest, and I think part of that was just because I have seen social workers in my career so far
before that, for a very good reason, have like put off their clinical license for one reason or another. For some, it may be like they're having kids, or they just didn't feel like they wanted to pursue it at that time, or they felt like they were good in their jobs, so they just didn't want to get it. And I have seen other social workers regret not getting it sooner and not just like biting the bullet, doing all the supervision hours, taking the test, like that kind of thing. And I just always knew that I wanted to get it as soon as I reasonably could. One, just to have it done. Two, to have like the increased opportunity that comes with having a clinical license, and also increased pay that comes with having a clinical license. So I knew from the get-go that that was a goal of mine that I wanted to do like as soon as I could. And so with that, I really prioritized getting all of my supervision hours and everything. So come end of May, beginning of June is when I got all of my documents together that the license required, the application, and sent my completed application to the State Board of Georgia. I was actually like in the last little chunk to send by mail to the professional board. Now they've switched it to where they do it online. So I can't really speak much on that. I have had some coworkers who are starting the online process, and it just feels weird because it's different, but I did it still on paper. And then I waited. I got fingerprinted in July, and then I waited. And then, as you know, last Wednesday got approved to sit for the test, took the test, and that was the last portion for me. Some states do it where you can sit and take the test. Like, you don't have to get approved. I live in my state, so I can only do what my state does. There were expenses along the way. That's a question that I get asked quite a bit, and I'm gonna have, these are coming from my brain because I'm so sorry I did not like sit down and collect them, though I could do that at a future time. If I remember correctly, the application fee was $110 that I sent with the application. To get fingerprinted was $51.99, and then the exam itself was $260. I think the exam's $230, but there's like a $30 registration fee, so functionally $260, which all adds up and is quite expensive. But once you're able to take the test, then your board will refer you to ASWB. You like register on ASWB, and then they send you to Pearson View centers for the actual test taking, and that's when you can like select your location and the time that you want to take the test. If you took the master level exam, the clinical is very much the same as far as the like actual experience of taking it. You arrive to your testing center. I left everything in the car other than literally just my keys and my forms of ID. If you take stuff in with you, they just have you put it in a locker. So whenever you walk into the testing center, you take a number, and everyone's like super anxious all around you because there's a lot of tests that can be happening all at the same time. With my LMSW exam, there was an internal medicine like board physician certified board exam happening at the same time. This time I picked up on some NCLEX people, some RBT people, some BCBA people. One person said FS. I don't know what that was, but there was lots of us that were there. You take your number, you sit down, they hand you like the rules for your exam. And so for the ASWB, what that means is it tells you like how many questions there are. There's 170. How long you get 4 hours. And then it gives you details on how to take unscheduled breaks versus scheduled breaks. This is a change that is different from when I took my associate exam. There is now a scheduled break that is in the social work tests, which I wasn't certain about going into it since it was different, but I'll talk about that whenever I get to that point in the test. They hand you the exam rules, you wait until your number is called. When they call your number, you go up to the front, you show them your forms of ID, you confirm which test you're taking, they scan your palm, and I'm pretty sure they scan your palm to make sure you are the same person, like whenever you're checking in, whenever you're entering the testing room, whenever you're leaving the testing room. If you leave for any breaks, you scan your palm, and I'm pretty sure it's like to make sure you're always the same person. And then they take your picture, which again I think is like verifying of like who is sitting and taking this exam. They ask you for like the spelling of your name, just like various things to check you in, and then you get to go to the back. So then whenever you go to the back, there's always been like a little bit of a line because I've always not been the first one in. Well, okay, you put your stuff in a locker if you have any stuff, and then you get to go to the back because you carry just like one form of ID with you, a photo ID with you at all times in the testing center. So I just brought my license with me. That was with me all times. And then I went and stood in the line, and in the line there's people in the back that will do like a quick little search of you in the sense of you just like pull up your sleeves, show there's nothing written on your hands, like do where they can see the back of your neck, you like pat down your pockets just to make sure you're not cheating. And then they take you to a computer that is set up for you. So you and your driver's license walk to that computer, and then you get to start your test. So as I mentioned, the clinical exam has 170 questions that you are taking. Only 150 of them them are scored. The other 20 questions are tester questions that they're just seeing how people are answering, and they don't factor into your score, but you'll never know which are the 20 that don't factor into your score. So for functionality, you are taking a 170 question test. Passing scores can range anywhere from 98 to 107, and that's based on the difficulty of the test. So if you have a harder test, then your passing score might be 98 because it's a harder test. You need fewer questions correct to pass, whereas the easier questions on tests may have a higher passing score of 107. You also don't know that number whenever you're taking your exam. So now how it is that you take the first 85 questions in one section, and you have to fully submit that section before you can move on to the next 85 questions. That's for the part that was different. So you have 2 hours to do 85 questions, and you can go back to any answers, you can flag for review in any of that time, but you can only do those 85 questions. You can take unscheduled breaks during that time, which just means the clock still runs, but you can like raise your hand and the testing person will escort you out to them where you can go to the bathroom, get a drink, like those kinds of things, but the clock still runs. After you review all your 85 questions, and click submit on that, you have a 10-minute scheduled break, which means you have 10 minutes that are not counting against you in the clock, which for a while I was like, well, I just want to get it done. Like, I just want to power on through the next 2 hours. But I'm glad I actually did this. I like forced myself. I went up, I used the bathroom, I got a drink. I was literally doing jumping jacks in the bathroom. I was stretching. I was trying to get my blood pumping. I was like, okay, let me actually like head back into this exam like energized and feeling alert. And so I did all of that in the bathroom, used almost the full 10 minutes, but I do think that was helpful because then when I sat down, I was like, okay, I'm just doing what I just did again, but this time it's my last time. So I really did feel like energized going into my second chunk of 85 questions. But you do the second chunk of 85 questions, and then you can review them, you can go back. Once you feel good, you click submit. It takes you through a little survey of like your experience taking the test, how easy it was to register, those types of things. I was not prepared for the next part. I think I might have talked about this, but for my associate level exam, the computer didn't tell you anything. You had to go back to the person at the front who printed off a piece of paper, and that's how we got that like cute video clip of like me showing you the paper first and then flipping it around and seeing myself if I passed. This time I was expecting that to happen. Instead, I clicked submit on the survey and the computer popped up and said you passed, and I was like, I truly, like, my heart like fell into my stomach just because I wasn't expecting to get a result like that. And obviously it was the result that I wanted, but can you imagine, like, I cannot imagine that moment if you didn't pass that time. Like, I really prefer the paper route, but they're not asking me. And then I left the testing center and then you saw me. So that's kind of how that morning went, practically, functionally. How I studied for this test, a lot of it was in vlogs if you'd like to go like literally watch me study, but I started by using Dawn APGAR resources. I took a Dawn APGAR diagnostic test that was, it must have been the same length, it was a 170 question test that I took to kind of start warm up, and then I read through the entire Dawn APGAR book and did all of the practice questions all the way through that book, and that was kind of my first chunk of studying. I think that that was a good warm-up for me. I think that was a good way to get my brain back into, okay, now I'm studying, I'm being studious, I'm thinking, I'm critically thinking, and kind of remind me of the information I learned in grad school. I think the Dawn APGAR materials were really helpful for me for that, because sitting down and taking the practice test, my brain was like, oh, we don't think like this anymore. And I was like, oh, you have to, I'm so sorry. I think that was very helpful for me to like get into the routine of studying and kind of just brush up on various topics. However, I don't think that can at all be the only thing you do for the test, because really what's most important in the test is knowing what kinds of questions the test is going to be asking you and knowing like what the test is testing. And in the clinical test, a lot of it is not recall, it's not information, it's not theories that you're having to know in super specific detail. You do need to know some information on them, but it's not like super specific detail. And I found that many of the Dawn APGAR practice questions were much more recall than the actual test is. So I don't think just doing that would prepare you for the test at all. So the other things that I used were the Agents of Change free resources. They have like a paid program. I only used the free ones. They have YouTube videos and podcasts. It's like the same content, just on the different formats, either with video or not. These were really helpful to me for brushing up on topics as well, especially because the topics that she has like social work shorts on were super relevant on the exam. They really, really were. I would say that anytime I was thinking about a question on the test, and like it was a knowledge question that I was like having to think, okay, what does this, you know, word mean? What is this concept? It was always my brain thinking back to the Agents of Change videos that I had watched, much more so than the Dawn Apgar book. Just something to note. And then Agents of Change also has practice questions that you go through, you break down the question, you work through it, all of that. And their practice questions, I feel like, are true to the test's questions, which can be super helpful. My number one girl, my BFF from my LMSW test, and then again this time I just knew I needed to like spend more time with her. There are lots of people on YouTube that do like breakdowns and study sessions and all of this. My girl is Savvy Social Worker exam prep. I love the way she breaks down questions. She has so much free content on her YouTube channel. She has so many practice questions that we go through. She has like 2-hour long live group sessions that she's then put on her YouTube, so then you can act like you're in the session. I felt like I was becoming friends with the people who were actually in the session. Like as they were talking, I felt like I was getting to know them. She is who was in my ears from the time that I was approved to take the test and schedule the test to when I was taking the test itself. She's my number one tip because she goes through like breaking down a question, figuring out what the question is asking you. She's very big on like what is the presenting problem, because sometimes the questions will give you more information than what you're really needing, and you have to figure out like what is the question asking, what is the presenting problem that I am answering. Sometimes it's not super clear if you're not practiced in like seeing the types of questions. So that's why I found her to be just so super useful, helpful. I think what you find for free on YouTube can be great, and I guess going over concepts and like theories and stuff like that probably just depends on like how far out of grad school you are, because I'm kind of the minimum out for this test. But also, like, I had not thought about Erik Erikson in the longest. Also, the test didn't ask anything about him. Nothing about him. It did not ask about Jean Piaget. I don't know if that means it never will. Probably good to brush up, but like, there was not a lot of things on the test that I was like, oh shoot, if only I had studied this. So that's what I used and how I found them to be helpful. I really just think practice questions, study groups are the most helpful. So with that, what was on the test and what were my strategies that I compiled from the people that I learned from in order to actually like take the test? On the clinical exam, it is mostly situation questions. It is mostly what do you do first, what do you do next, what is the best thing to do questions, which are the ones that people don't really like because people feel like they can be subjective. If you practice, they start to feel less subjective. Like if you know what the test prioritizes. The key thing that I feel you need to know in order to take the test is the helping process, the social work helping process. Conveniently, didn't even plan this when I did it because I did it like 2 years ago. Conveniently, I have videos on the helping process. That's the order you gotta know. And that's where people get tripped up on the test, is that you may be jumping to intervention and you haven't properly assessed. You may be jumping into assessment and you haven't fully engaged or like validated what a client has said. The helping process truly is key for this test. In my opinion, having knowledge on the theories and different like modalities, like whatever the knowledge bases of the test are, can really help you eliminate possible answer choices. With most questions, I would say there's usually 2 that you can just eliminate right off the bat. And you should cross those out so that you're not even thinking about them anymore, because you just took yourself from a 25% chance of a right answer to a 50% chance of a right answer by crossing out the ones that you're like, that's absolutely not it. Typically, I find that there were 2 distractors and then 2 that I was thinking between. Identifying the presenting problem is super key. I know I already said that, but like super key. What is the question actually asking? Is the answer choice that I am picking it because it's answering the question or because I just think it sounds like a good thing to do? There could be like great interventions that are sitting in the answer choices, but it's not what the question's asking about. And so that's where finding the presenting problem is just so key. And if you watch Savvy Social Work exam prep, she will drill that into your brain in such a good way. I found myself highlighting during the test of like what each presenting problem was, because then as I was going through answer choices, I would make sure that my answer choice was answering that problem. It wasn't just like a good answer choice, it was answering the problem that the question was asking. Another little key that I found was sometimes the question tells you what step of the process you're on, what step of the helping process you're on. And that, as long as you catch it and pay attention to it, can really help you. So for example, like there may be some questions that give you context of the client and then it says, after assessing the client, what should the social worker do next? And in your head, you're kind of already think then, if you know the helping process, you're like, if I just finished assessment, what am I going to be doing? I'm going to be planning and I'm going to be intervening. And so if an answer choice is assessment or engagement or termination or evaluation. Like none of those are right after assessment, you know what I mean? So after the social worker assesses, that is like such a key, as long as you're paying attention to those things. And that's where the practice questions as you're studying are just so important, so that your brain can get used to thinking like that. With the, I'm sorry, I'm just like reading my little notes. With the first next best questions, like I said, I feel like it's common that you can eliminate 2 and have 2 remaining. Sometimes what's frustrating is that the 2 remaining are things that you will do. Like both of them you will do. You will both validate what a client has said and collect collateral information for an assessment. Or you will both, I'm not good at thinking of examples, you will both assess the client and intervene with the client. Like sometimes there are really good, and that makes it sound so obvious, but like they're not always written, you know, just like that. Sometimes it'll be both really good things, and that's where you just have to think, which order am I going to do them in? If I'm going to do both of these things, which order am I going to do them in? Or if I'm going to ask for more information and also make a child protection report, which order am I going to do that in? Because sometimes I found like questions would ask it like that. Like an 11-year-old reported that her stepfather pushed her after she got home later than she said she would from her friends. And the answer choices might be like, oh, what should the social worker do next? Answer choices might be like, make a report to law enforcement, make a mandated report for child abuse to Child Protective Services, ask for more information, and then an easy cross off one like terminate services with the 11-year-old, or just something that's easy to cross off. And with those questions, granted, things can change depending on the details of the question, but in the example I just gave, the correct answer would be ask for more information, because if you're going to ask for more information and also make a report, depending on the more information you get and like what the situation is, which one of those are you going to do first? You're going to ask for more information first, because you're not going to make the child protection report and then go back to the 11-year-old and be like, so what happened? You know, it's like if you're in that moment and an 11-year-old says that, you're going to get clarifying information of like what she means. You know, I just found like that mindset was helpful to me as I was debating sometimes between the 50% between the 2 answer choices that I had left. Medications was a big question for me before going in, because I really felt like I didn't know that many medications, and I don't really, because I don't really interact with psychotropic medications all that much in my specific practice. However, questions that reference medications, questions that reference specific diagnoses, or questions that reference like just specific pieces of knowledge, the non-situation ones, you can think of as freebies if you know that. So with medications, I was really stressed out heading into it. I am not an expert, don't take my word as law. I feel if you know the common antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications, and antipsychotic medications, you know enough to at least process and eliminate really well with medication questions. And there are really good like short YouTube videos that just go over quick medications like that. I wouldn't stress out all too much about medications, as long as just being able to recognize sort of like, okay, this one's an anti-anxiety medication, so I'm actually not gonna, a client's not gonna be taking that for their hallucinations. You know, just like being able to recognize them of those 3 categories, I think should be sufficient, and don't stress yourself out that much of it, because my medication question, I think I only had 1 that was on the test. The correct answer was not a medication that I was familiar with, but I was familiar with the other 3 answer choices, and I knew that they would not be correct. So it can be a freebie as long as you just at least can recognize. I really felt like medications was like a weak point going in, but I wanted those bonus points, or like guaranteed points, by knowing a medication question and just being able to kind of recognize by eyesight antidepressives, anti-anxiety medications, and antipsychotic medications, I feel like set me up for success in that regard. Similarly, sometimes there are random medical questions on the test. I have heard that from other people, and I had one too that was about an anticoagulant, which as a clinical social worker, you're not going to be prescribing an anticoagulant, but why is it important to know? Because depending on your setting, your clients may be taking medications, and it's important for you to just kind of like know what's going on in their life. My question talked about it being an anticoagulant, and then asked like what a side effect of that would be, and I felt pretty proud of getting that one. That one was an easy point for me. All that to say, if you're taking this test, getting this license ever in your life, I believe in you. You can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. Don't just listen to me. Take in like all of the free resources that are available to you on this lovely app of YouTube. Maybe one day it'll set into me that I have like achieved this goal and made it to this point of life, but still not quite there yet. If you'd like to see any part of my journey, truly any part of it, you can find it on this channel. Whether you're curious about BSW, MSW, graduating, my first job post-grad, any of those, you can find it on this channel. Thanks for hanging out with me. If you have further questions, leave them down below. I can make a part 2 if needed. I try to get out all my thoughts, but you know, you never know. I'll see you next time.